How is AI being used by insights and research right now? So we conducted a study in August, 148 people around the world. The biggest group are research agencies, consultancy suppliers. The next biggest group are research buyers from the client side, mostly from USA, Europe, and a reasonable chunk from Asia Pacific. The data were all collected August this year, and this is not a representative population of the whole research industry. It really reflects people who are closely or loosely connected, directly or indirectly, with NewMR. And we are focusing on what people have done in the last month. So it's a really quite tight timeline. And in this sample, only 1% had not used artificial intelligence at all in the last month. But as you're going to see later on, for the whole research ecosystem, I suspect it's closer to 50% have not used AI. So one of the things we looked at is what are people doing most frequently? And the people who are using AI, which is nearly the whole of this sample, they're using it for writing blogs and reports and emails. They're using it as a chatbot, so when they want factual information or they want to know how to do something, they're asking ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. They're using it for qualitative research, and this is a change from when the internet came on the scene. When the internet came on the scene, the quantitative researchers picked it up faster, and the qualitative researchers less so. This time round, we're seeing more qualitative leveraging AI than we are quantitative. Then we see people using it as a research assistant, helping them draft questionnaires, understand briefs, looking at presentations and so on. And then we get just a little bit behind that, using it for quantitative research. If we go to the less common activities, well, the top one is pretty common. It's almost the same as quant, but using AI agents. Now, this is really important. Agents are, I think, going to be the biggest factor over the next 18 months. And it's interesting that amongst this sample, just over half, well on the way to 60%, are using agents in the last month. Deep research, 43%. I think that's not great, because I think that most of us should be using deep research, or if you're using Copilot, agent research, at least once a week, because this is how you find out the background news that keeps you informed. About 43% are using it for image creation. Vibe coding, using AI to help you write code, 15%, not surprising perhaps. This one next did surprise me. Only about 11% are using it to translate documents. But then it suddenly occurred to me, of course, if you do all of your research inside one country, then you are not very often translating stuff from one language to another. So for those of us who work internationally, it's great, but it's actually irrelevant to a lot of people. A good reminder. When we look at which platforms where everybody is using, it's very similar to the wider world. The most common platform by a long way is ChatGPT, and nearly everybody is using that. It steps down to Microsoft Copilot. And when you consider that it's increasingly coming bundled with your Office 365 from Microsoft, maybe it's surprising it's not higher. Then Gemini, then a jump down to Perplexity, and a jump down to Claude, and then a really big jump down to things like DeepSeek, Llama, and Mistral. We asked people about synthetic data, and I would describe its use as scattered but noticeable. So in some other studies by the likes of Greenbook, for example, in the GRIT study, they looked at have used it in the last 6 months or the last year and got much higher numbers. This is a really difficult test by comparison. Have you used synthetic data in the last month? And nearly 3/4 of people say, no, I've not used it in the last month. But 18% say they have used it in the last month for piloting or exploring. 3% said they have used it. So in the last month, about 1 in 5 people appear to have used it from this particular population. Now we start to think about what about the wider population, not just the people we're talking to. So to find this out, we asked everybody to estimate the percentage of their colleagues they think are using AI on a regular basis. 7 people in our sample said they didn't know. 3 said it's not applicable. Perhaps they didn't have any colleagues, one-man bands and so on. So the base for this is 138. And I want you to stop for a moment and just think, what do you think the median answer is going to be for the percentage of people's colleagues who are using AI, given that these people are using AI? Well, there's the raw data. So 20% of our sample said 8% of more of their colleagues are using it, and 10% of our sample said fewer than 20% of their colleagues were using it. If we drop a vertical line, we can see that the median is just over 50%. So in most organizations, about half are not using AI regularly. I've been doing quite a lot of consulting with organizations now, some of whom make AI available to every member of staff, and the figures for those particular organizations when I've worked with them have been about 55, 60. The really good ones are getting 65% of their staff using AI when it's readily available. So that's quite an interesting phenomenon, I think. We asked people to say what they thought would happen to insights and research over the next 18 months because of AI. And 48% of them broadly came up with comments that we would call positive. 15% were neutral, 19% were mixed, saying it was some good and some bad, and 24%, nearly a quarter, thought that the impact was going to be negative. So whatever your opinion is, you are in a minority. That's always worth remembering. Whatever your opinion is, you are in a minority. Typical comments from the people who are positive: a lot more AI in research processes to make things faster and more affordable. I hope a lot more AI to make things better, more nuanced, more creative. And the sort of negative comments: I think it will drive budgets down as clients believe there will be large efficiencies, but I also think it will lead to worse quality in the longer run. So extracting the comments using Pulse for Excel on this occasion, one of our new products. Across responses, the dominant expectation is that AI will speed up, streamline and lower the cost of research while shifting human effort towards higher order synthesis and storytelling. But many foresee AI moving from a helper to a core embedded capability, enabling more frequent, larger scale and real-time analysis. Negatively, people flagged up meaningful risks, job losses, especially amongst junior roles, quality and trust concerns, hallucinations, synthetic respondents, fraud, pricing pressures, and a likely backlash as hype gives way to realism. And the beliefs had a really wide range from transformative, game changer positive to devastating negative. And so people have different expectations of the outcome. One of the things that we ask our tool Pulse for Excel to do is always to flag up what are the outlying views. We don't just want the middle. And so there are some people who are massively in favour of this AI change. Very positive, game changer, huge, transformative, etc. There's another bunch who are very negative, devastating. It's going to make us all dumber. It's going to be road legitimacy, death by 1,000 cuts, no more job postings, etc. And then there are a few people who say AI will have no impact. There's going to be a platitude, a plateau and disillusion. We're going to return to face-to-face. There's going to be a pushback and there's going to be less use of DIY tools. We need to remember that views are highly differentiated on almost any topic, and they are on this topic. So what are the potential issues that I would highlight coming out of this study? Bad actors, more panel fraud, more bogus synthetic data, magic black boxes which claim to do things which can't be proved. Democratization gone wrong, so non-researchers not being able to tell good tools from bad tools. The speed of change. So how do we check that it's working? How can we train ourselves and our colleagues to use it when it changes so fast? How do we get return on investment when anything we build now may be out of date in 6 months? One of the concerns for those of us in Europe is, will we be left behind? If the EU and the UK and others have rules on AI that are tighter than USA and China, maybe we'll fall behind. And job and company disruptions. I am convinced a lot of jobs will disappear. I'm sure a lot of new jobs will come, but in total, there will be fewer jobs. So my recommendations: if you are a company, move fast and break things. Don't Go as slowly and as carefully as we've done in the past, but don't take big bets. Don't spend a year creating a new system because you may find out that it's out of date by the time you finished it. Build your moats, your defense strategies, which will not be AI. AI cannot be your competitive advantage. Your knowledge, your history, and your people are your competitive advantage if you use them right. For individuals, you want to be the best at using AI in your team. You want to manage any project or work on any project that is about implementing AI. You don't want to be looking after the legacy systems if you can afford it. One major challenge is not understanding the security privacy rules with each AI. Sure, someone might have access to AI, but can they share documents, data, etc. with the AI? If they don't know, I bet they don't use it for fear of breaking privacy rules. I know I wouldn't. And I think we've got two things we need to contrast and combine here. If you have been given an AI platform by your employer, you need to trust that the IT security has been done, and you should use it in the way your employer indicates. You shouldn't go beyond that. You shouldn't upload stuff they've said you shouldn't upload. So within the systems you've been entitled to use, that is really a good place to be. One of the great fears of CTOs, chief technical officers at the moment, is the amount of shadow AI. So if you're in a company and you've not been given some good AI tools, there's a lot of evidence that many employees are using their own ChatGPT, their own Claude, whatever, using it on their iPhones, using it on their own computers and accessing stuff. And of course, that is incredibly not secure, and that is quite a big worry. So that is going to be a major feature. Sammy is filled in a very similar comment there to the previous question. So we have a little bit of time if there are any more questions about the information that I just shared or the advice that I tacked on to the end of that. But if there are no more questions, we can move. So great question. How do you address pushback on AI from those who cite hallucinations despite low rates? Whilst there are genuine concerns, and I always advocate that you check results and there are all sorts of processes you can do, this is becoming a standard phrase from those people who don't want to use AI. They will talk about the hallucinations. If you use reasoning models, the rates of hallucinations are much lower because it does more cross-checking. It's very simple to put systems in questions, queries in 3 times, compare the answers. If they're from independent runs, hallucinations are not going to be the same as each other. So there's a great defense there. In addition, we're seeing more and more systems where it's not just using ChatGPT, it's not just using Gemini or Copilot, but they are using AI in other people's systems, such as the ones we generate at NewMR and ResearchWise, for example, but lots and lots of other people, Coloop and Yasna and UScan and all of these companies are developing systems that work with known information and with checks and balances. And that takes care of the hallucination problems. But nevertheless, at the moment, maybe the AI makes you 50% faster, but your extra checking means you're only 40% faster. You're still net ahead. Do you think that in the generations of synthetic data, the models with fewer parameters, so the ones that you can download onto a computer with a lot of training, could have a role? Not so much in synthetic data. So just for everyone's understanding, you can download some models, DeepSeek being perhaps the most famous for this, or maybe Meta's Llama. But Mistral is another one, and you can now do it with the latest OpenAI. So you can have a powerful computer in your company, and you can not connect it to the internet. And now, of course, it's 100% secure. It's not even connected to the internet. So I think we're going to see quite a lot of market research agencies and consultancies running local models as part of their guarantee to their client that this is not on the internet. These models are always a little bit slower, but the ones you can download as of August 2025 are better than the models you could use online last year. So that is moving in the right direction. Yes, I do comment from Scott that I'll just read for those who haven't seen it. I do like that among your tools for the exoskeleton are drill, wrench and plunge. I see a lot of what we focus on here, new potential solutions, but recognizing that what we find out may not be fit for what we want to accomplish. So we are just talking about market research. Scott sort of briefly talked about cars and the use of synthetic data. Sammy talked about robots and what we call embedded AI. We are just a fraction of the change that is happening all around us. And we need to recognize that the speed is faster than anything we've dealt with in the past. I did an exercise recently with a group of people, and we asked them to write down what can AI already do, what will AI be able to do soon, and what will AI never be able to do. And probably about 15% of the things that people wrote down on AI will never be able to do, it's already doing. And I frequently hear people say, what about those driverless cars? They've not happened, have they? They're never going to happen. And as Scott mentioned, they're present in lots of US cities. There are even more of them already on the road in China. So where I've got people saying it will never happen about things which are currently happening. So we need to be careful about how we move forward, but we also need to be careful because some of it is going to screw up big time.